Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me on this Reviews Day Tuesday is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. How'd you like Miracle last night, Sean?
You mean this morning?
Oh, you watched it this morning?
I watched it
nice.
this morning.
Yeah, we will get into the Miracle talk. It is, of course, Reviews Day Tuesday. And by way of a very, very tight poll last week, Miracle just edged out Mighty Ducks, Youngblood, and Goon. It was like 25% each, like the entire time of the poll, and eventually Miracle won out, which I expected. Yeah. I honestly expected it to run away with it, and it did not.
Bill, I gotta say before we get started, loving the purple. That's a vibe.
I love this purple hat.
I didn't know they made purple Phillies hats.
I love this purple hat, and I only have so many purple things to wear. And we got these. Chris, our social media guy, got us hooked up with some Water Dogs
This
stuff.
is the lacrosse thing, right?
Yeah, for the Philly lacrosse team, the Water Dogs, and I was like, oh, perfect. A way to get in the purple hat into my rotation. So here we are.
I did not know that there were Phillies purple hats. I've never been like a huge purple guy to wear, but like I'm not opposed to it. It's just I never really owned anything that was purple. I love purple on hockey jerseys.
Yes, big fan.
I am a huge fan. Well,
Red and Royal shit is very cool.
I shouldn't even say I'm a huge fan. I am a huge hater of the fact that the cowardly Los Angeles Kings organization no longer uses purple as their main color. Your name is the Kings.
It's the royal color.
It's the royal color. Stop being cowards and wear purple.
Like the Lakers, one of the greatest franchises in all of sports, have no problem wearing purple.
Zero issues.
But I will say, now that they're going to the Gretzky era Raiders colors, I do love those.
Yeah, they're fine. But I still think,
like, the jerseys they won the cup in, I think suck.
Yeah.
But, like, if they're going to go with the Gretzky era jerseys, I think they're cool.
They're better.
But purple is, like, go purple, man. Like,
I think
why not?
The old school 70s, 80s purple and yellow, like, that should be the Kings colors. You're Kings. Flaunt it. Be Kings.
I thought Utah had a real opportunity to just go with some purple the way the Jazz have purple. I was like, nah. All right. But the Phantoms still rocking the purple.
Maybe they'll change their colors when they actually have a name.
I'm still looking for a purple by a Lois jersey. Ooh. That's the one he's wearing in my bobblehead. But my only Phantoms jersey is white. Anyway, Charlie, to more pet subjects to get into. Yep. Before we get into Miracle today, a couple of things. I want to continue the Owen Tippett conversation from yesterday because he's just one of their most interesting players.
Bill, I will permit you to gloat. You can gloat a little bit.
We got not one, but two, count them, two offer sheets today. The St. Louis Blues.
They actually happened.
St. Louis Blues going after a pair of young Edmonton Oilers. They offer sheet Philip Broberg. 2 years, $4.58 million average annual value. The total actual average annual value of this is $4,580,917 per year. The maximum offer that would require a second round draft pick. If it was $918 per year, it would have to be it would have to be a first round draft pick. Right. And they did the same thing with Dylan Holloway, 2 years, $2,290,457 per year. The maximum offer that would require a third. If it was $458 per year, they would have to offer a second round pick. So couple of 2-year offer sheets that will maybe cost the Blues a second and third round draft pick in order to get Philip Broberg, who was the 8th overall pick in 2019, and Dylan Holloway, who was the 14th overall pick in 2020.
Yeah, he was a mid-first round. I like Dylan Holloway in that draft. One thing that I did find really funny was the uproar on Twitter, not even about the offer sheet, but the uproar right before the offer sheet, because the trade they made with Pittsburgh got announced first. And when you looked at it at first glance, you're like, why would they do that deal? They traded a second and a sixth, and they get back a second and a third. Obviously, Pittsburgh gets a massive win here. What the hell were the Blues thinking? Why did they take a loss when it was just a straight-up pick swap? And then about like 5 minutes later, the offer sheet news breaks, and you realize they had to get back their second round pick because, as we talked about on the show, when you're submitting an offer sheet, you can't replace your draft picks with like another second rounder you got from another team. It has to be your pick.
Like if the Flyers were to throw some massive offer sheet at someone, and it would require like 3 or 4 first round picks. Oh, they have 3 firsts this year. Great. No, that's not how it works. You have to own, the Colorado pick, the Edmonton pick, those are still yours.
Yeah.
You have to surrender your first round picks.
It's only the picks that you had originally.
Now,
so they had to get back one of the picks they traded away to make this offer sheet.
Like you can have then make like other trades, like the Flyers. Yeah, they did all that in the Grattan offer sheet, and they were like, "Here's Renberg and Dykhouse. Give us all our picks back."
Right.
And I think with the Shea Weber thing, it was like, if you don't want the picks, we'll send you Coots and Shen.
They definitely talked about trade offers
prior to the offer sheet. They definitely offered Coots and Shen. And I think that was still on the table had the offer sheet been accepted. Like, we'll take our picks back.
I know they talked about it even after the offer sheet was done. They were like, look, if you don't want these picks, we can do a deal where we swap the picks back and you get players if you want to be helped now. Obviously, Nashville ultimately just matched the offer sheet.
But when the initial thing goes through, you have to have your picks to surrender.
Your picks, exactly.
Right. So what do we think about this? It's pretty interesting. A couple of guys who very high draft pedigree, but really haven't established themselves even as like everyday players for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, again, like the Oilers are in cup chasing win now mode, so it's not exactly, oh yeah, let's develop these guys. Like, no, they're going to play them in a role if they need to, and if they can't fit that role, they're going to put someone else in there because they just went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. They are not in the place to be like, oh, well, we got to figure out how we're going to use this guy. It's like he's either going to play the role we want him to, or we're going to put someone else in there.
Yeah.
It's a little weird, kind of reminiscent of the Ryan Kessler offer sheet that the Flyers, like, after basically his first full season, the first year out of the lockout, he had like 20-some points, and Bobby Clark was like, 1 year, $1.9 million. Let's see if Vancouver matches. Yeah, like, it was worth a shot. If there's kind of what they're doing here.
If you're screwing with a player, if you're screwing with one of your RFAs, and you're basically saying, well, we just don't think you're worth that much, that player has the right to go out with his agent and see if any other teams think that they're worth the money that his team refuses to pay him. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how this came about, because if you look at these deals, there were the offer sheets that were signed. They're not officially contracts, I guess, at this point. They're both significant overpays for what these guys have already done. Like, I went to the Evolving Hockey Contracts projection model they have on their website. Very helpful. They do great work over there. But Dylan Holloway on a 2-year deal, because he's obviously a pending RFA, so they projected his likely contract. On a 2-year deal, he would be projected to have a $1.07 million cap hit. So this is at 2.29. We're talking about a mil, 1.2-ish mil extra a year. They're overpaying Holloway based on comparables. But that's not the big overpay. The big overpay is Broberg, because Broberg, per the model, on a 2-year deal, would be expected to get about $950,000. So they are paying Broberg about $4 million a year more than he presumably would expect to get based on comps, which is why, like, obviously what the Oilers were doing in the situation was saying to these guys, look, based on what you've done in the NHL, you don't deserve probably more than a little bit over $1 million on a 1, maybe 2-year deal. We're crammed up against the cap, take it or leave it. And the guys probably were like, okay, well, we'll leave it. We'll go out and get the money. And clearly St. Louis, like, it seems like the general consensus, and maybe Edmonton will find a way to keep both guys because it's just an FU, you can't take our players kind of thing. But it seems like the consensus from the insiders is that they're probably going to keep Holloway and just say, fine, you can have Broberg. Because Broberg has struggled to crack that lineup anyway.
Parts of 3 seasons in the NHL, he has played a total of 81 games and has 13 points, 2 goals.
Yes. He impressed in the playoffs, to be sure. Yeah. The physical skills are certainly there. He's a great skater. He's got good size. He's got the tools. The question has always been, does he have it up here enough to be a top 4 defenseman? Clearly, St. Louis thinks he can. And what they're telling Edmonton is, look, you're crammed up against the cap. We're willing to overpay this guy by a lot for 2 years just to get him. If you want to keep him, fine, but you're going to have an overpaid third pair / number 7 defenseman, depending on how you want to use him, just sitting on your cap when you're trying to compete for a cup. So I think the consensus is that while they'd like to get both, obviously they wouldn't assign both guys to offer sheets if they didn't want to get both. The real pressure on Edmonton is being put with Broberg, and it seems like that's the guy they really want.
And you just look at the situation Edmonton is in right now. I think Evander Kane is expected to go on LTIR.
Start the year.
But he's not yet. They're a couple $100K over the cap. Leon Draisaitl, he can sign an extension at any point. And Connor McDavid, next July 1st, is extension eligible as well. Every dollar they spend on guys who are unproven, depth players, is a dollar they cannot spend on 2 dudes they absolutely have to keep.
Right. And also with somebody like Broberg especially. You know, let's say they match the offer sheet. They keep Philip Broberg. And then next year he's their third pair defenseman. He's okay. He's not amazing. He's okay. They can't trade him. No one's going to want that. I mean, maybe St. Louis would, but they're probably now never going to work with St. Louis again because they're going to get all pissy about the fact that they offer sheeted him. So it's not like Broberg is going to have any trade value if they match. So they're not going to be able to get out from under that deal very easily because teams are going to look at it and be like, yeah, he's got upside, but like not at $4 million a year. That's too much. So St. Louis, to their credit, is putting Edmonton in a bit of a pickle here. And I'm very interested to see if, to me, it makes too much sense for Edmonton just to keep Holloway and let Broberg go. That would seem to be the logical thing to do. However, I will never underestimate the impact of spite. And I wonder if Bowman and Edmonton will basically just say, we can't set the precedent that you can steal our guys if you want, so we're going to trade somebody away just to keep these guys because fuck you. I wonder.
I really do like the dynamic of Doug Armstrong. Like, I'm out of here anyway.
Yeah, that was a very interesting aspect
Stan
of
Bowman,
this.
who's like, fuck, I just got this job. Now I have to make this decision. I thought I had to wait on McDavid. I'm figuring out Draisaitl. Now I got to worry about this shit. I really like the dynamic of these two general managers who are both in very different spots.
I think the Armstrong part is interesting because we talk about on the show a lot how one of the reasons why Paul Holmgren chose to kind of kick himself upstairs, in addition to the fact that they wanted to keep Hextall, because Hextall was a top general manager prospect at the time, they wanted to keep him in the fold, was Holmgren has admitted he found it tougher to work out trades with teams after he had the failed offer sheet to Shea Weber, because the old boys club, the hockey men, they circled the wagons and basically said, you broke the code. Well, with Armstrong, I don't think they're going to have to worry about that, or he's going to have to worry about that, because he's gone in 2026. He's already set up a retirement / succession plan where he's going to give the GM job in 2026 to Alex Steen, and he's going to kick himself upstairs to be the president of hockey operations for St. Louis. So he might be thinking, well, you only live once, man. I'm out of here. So if you all hate me, you only got to deal with me for 2 more years.
And I just love this league, man. You stole your player signed a contract.
Exactly.
He is, yes, restricted. You're allowed to match, but he is a free agent. He does not have a contract.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that I think it's stupid, but it's a reality.
It is absolutely the reality, but that is why I love, as much as you and I have both complained and disparaged the GM tenure of Bob Clark. Happy birthday to Bobby Clark. Not Bob Clark, but Bobby. I will wish a happy birthday to. But this is from, I found this old quote on a Broad Street Buzz article that was looking back at the Ryan Kessler offer sheet.
Okay.
And this is Clarky talking about Vancouver complaining. He says, we all have the same cap. We operate in the same world. They had all summer to sign this guy. It was 3 days before training camp. He's not signed. We're going to lose Primo, so we took a shot at getting another center. And this is the second year after the lockout, when it's that our plan, Forsberg's hurt. Maybe he'll be okay. Primo retiring. All these guys okay, we'll see. And then they go on to suck that year. But
Yeah, that was
they were
a real
trying
bad
to
year.
come up with some sort of plan here.
Fair.
And it was like, oh, Kessler's not signed. It's 3 days before camp. We need a center.
No,
and it was like, I'm trying to build a team over here. I don't know what you're doing.
No, you got to give Clarkey credit on that one. And say what you will about his general managing style. And we've been critical of it quite a lot on the show. The argument being that Clarkey was fine when he could spend whatever he wanted. And when he had to operate under a salary cap, it was like, oh, shit. I don't have advantages over every team other than like 2 in the league. I guess I just can't build a good team. But I will never fault him for a lack of aggression.
Nah.
Never.
He
was not scared to make moves.
You knew we were trying to do shit. It was probably dumb, but we were trying to do shit. And, that's what happened. I guess the thing, we were talking before the show. It's always like we are very much how does this affect the Leafs? How does this affect the Flyers sort of fan base? Is this the sort of gamble the Flyers should be taking with 2 young, unproven guys that do have draft pedigree? Like, if the Flyers took this gamble, how would you feel about it?
I think the way I'll answer that is I would cheer a gamble like this. I personally don't think I would have made this gamble, but that's because I'm not especially high on Broberg, nor like extremely high on Holloway. I liked him as a draft prospect. He hasn't done a ton since he's turned pro. I don't know if I would go for these 2 particular guys, but that's just my personal bias because I don't see it in Broberg. I never have. I didn't like him as a draft prospect. I just don't see the hockey IQ. But here's the thing. If you're a GM in the position that Danny Briere's in, and your pro scouts and Keith Jones maybe has inside information or something and says, these 2 guys, they're buried in this organization and they're going to be studs. Find a way to get them. And I'm trusting those guys. I'm going to be like, you know what? Yeah, do something like this. Get aggressive. Try to get these guys who I think can be top of the lineup studs that maybe just have gotten Owen Tippett in their organization. So I would like the thought process. I don't know if I would do it for these particular guys, but that said, if the pro scouts and Jonesy and Bradshaw,
I was gonna say, like, if Bradshaw comes up to GM Charlie O'Connor and is like,
I
bro,
can make this guy into a number 1.
This is
the guy.
I've been looking at this guy for 3 years. I think I can make something out of him.
Then sure. Then I would have no issue with being this aggressive. Look, the problem with this is that you're going to be overpaying, especially Broberg.
Of course.
But it's only for 2 years. And the Flyers, in theory, like these next 2 years, they're probably not competing anyway. You're only giving up, if these offer sheets aren't matched, you're only giving up 2nd and 3rd round picks. You're not giving up super prime assets. So I would have 0 issue at all with a similar move to this. I just don't know if I personally would have made this specific move because I'm not super high on either one of these players.
I do love like the term. That's what I think makes the money okay. Even if
you're only dealing with it for a couple
because
years.
All right, you get to go into negotiation being like, bro, I overpaid you. Like, time to give a little back here. We're going to sign you to the exact same money. Like, and if it works out, it works out. You have a great player. Cool,
exactly.
You pay him.
Exactly.
But like, you can always have that a little bit. Like, that's why they let you go. It was way too much money. Now we're renegotiating. We'll see. But I do like the term also for the amount. Like, yeah, man, you're going to have to overpay these guys in the years you're trying to re-sign McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, it doesn't even extend longer than that. It's just these years where you need to figure out what your cap is. You're fucked.
Hey, you gotta be a little predatory with these. If you want them to work, you have to put the other team in a position where they have to make a decision they don't want to make. That's the only way they're gonna work. That's why when people on Twitter were freaking out this morning about, well, that's such an overpay for Broberg, it's like, well, yeah, that's how you make an offer sheet work.
Yeah.
You only are gonna win an offer sheet. You're only gonna get the player if you overpay.
That's
because if you weren't, then why wouldn't the other team just match?
Like, that's why the Flyers gave Chris Gratton $10 million up front. Because Tampa Bay did not have $10 million on hand.
Yeah.
Like,
neither did Nashville.
Nashville didn't, but they had an owner who was rich enough to be like, all right,
I'll write the check.
Fine. All right. We are talking about smart financial decisions. That's right. Smart financial decisions. And maybe you could use a little help making smarter financial decisions. You should visit our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, who want you to know that, yeah, they fully understand making the switch from one of your typical big banks to any other financial institution. Like, it's a pain in the ass, man. They know. That's why they've made it super easy for you to go from bank to TrueMark Financial Credit Union, because they want to help you out. They are all about the personalized financial planning and expertise and the personalized service. It's a community at TrueMark Financial, and it starts with the ownership structure. I tell you all the time, man, banks, for-profit institution owned by shareholders, what's their goal? Generating profit for those shareholders, whereas credit unions are not-for-profit financial co-ops owned by their members. So if you live or work in Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, or Philadelphia counties, you're eligible to join, and membership benefits include great rates, lower fees, and that personalized service. You can meet with advisors to provide personalized financial planning and expertise, and they can teach you about goal setting for long-term financial security. Maybe someone over in Edmonton could use the people at TrueMark Financial. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA, is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. And while we're here, why don't I tell you about one of the sponsors I love most here at PHLY. It's hard to pick. A lot of great sponsors we have. I use a lot of these products, but Lucy Nicotine, turns out I'm like the only nicotine user here at PHLY. So I think I might be the only one doing the reads for this. And I am completely comfortable with that because I am a big fan of their products. I was never really a pouch guy before this, but I told you a couple months ago I got a new car, and like, I'm not trying to have the new car smell like smoke. Really, that's what it comes down to. But when I'm in the car, that is when I am most stressed and most in need of a little bit of a nicotine fix. Pop in a Lucy. Absolutely no smell, doesn't screw up the interior of my car, and gets me through the ridiculous traffic that I sometimes face on the way home from this very show. But everything about Lucy is pretty cool. 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco free, and it's not like every other pouch company owned by Big Tobacco. They're kind of the mom and pop shop of pouches. And the flavors I am also a fan of. I've told you the wintergreen and the mint, the mango as well, all pretty good. The apple ice grew on me. I was like, what the hell does apple ice mean? But it's like a kind of an apple cinnamon thing going on. I really dug it. And if you're not a pouch guy or gal, Lucy Gum, available in 2, 4, and 6 milligram doses. So set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. Let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/flyers and use promo code FLYERS to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use code FLYERS to get 20% off and always free shipping. And here comes that fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. All right, let's get to a little more Owen Tippett talk from yesterday. I want to start it with a thread from our buddy Kurt over at Broad Street Hockey.
We love Kurt.
Reacting to one of your myth points in your article yesterday, the myth of the abnormally streaky scoring of Owen Tippett. Now, yeah, absolutely. We looked at it yesterday and we're like, yeah, man, you just watch him and sometimes he looks like the best player on the ice for a shift, a game, a week, 2 weeks, and then it's just a guy out there. Yeah. He might be all right, but not someone you're like, fuck, yeah, I need him on my first line. Yeah. Absolutely. And you look then at the monthly scoring, it's like, I don't know, he looks pretty consistent to me. He has a couple of months that pop, but, you know, a range of 0.57 to 0.66, basically, points per game every month, except for the 2 months that really pop. It's like, that's the same thing.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, with Tippett that he is as much, rightfully, as much shit as we gave the Flyers for their late March, early April swoon that knocked them out of a playoff spot. The only guy on that team that kept scoring through that bad run was Tippett.
Yeah.
He was the only guy who was still basically scoring at his season-long rates. Everybody else fell off a cliff. Tippett did not go cold. He was still producing.
And then Kurt decided to go a step further.
Hey-o.
Look at Charlie, hooking people up with ideas so that they can do my work for me. I love it. Everyone's doing work for Bill. Kurt breaks it down. Of the 132 forwards last year who played 6+ games in every month and had at least 40 points on the season, Tippett's best to worst month range of 0.3 is the 4th lowest of the entire group. That is absolutely freaking insane. He's actually one of the least streaky scorers
on a month-to-month basis.
On a month-to-month basis. And like, yeah, the game-to-game, the week-to-week, we saw it. But at the end of every month, he is not streaky.
Yeah, the numbers are there.
He is very much one of the most consistent guys. Like, the only players more consistent than him on a month-to-month basis, Chris Kreider, Brady Tkachuk, Ryan O'Reilly, and then, like, Barkov right below him, Mangiapane, Tyler Bertuzzi. It's very interesting. And then you look at the most streaky guys. It's a pretty funny list. William Nylander, Steven Stamkos, Nathan McKinnon, TK on the list. It's like, wow. Matt Tkachuk's on the list. Elias Pettersson. There's a lot of Mikko Rantanen comes in at 12th. There's the best players in hockey are streaky as shit.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Connor McDavid just puts up points in every game. So, like, he probably doesn't even rank on either of these lists.
And also,
but
like, for example, when you're looking at Nathan McKinnon as the 3rd most streaky, it's worth noting that, like, his low month of 8.75 is better than Tippett's high month.
Yes. That's the other.
He's streaky because when he's on a streak, he's the best player in the world.
Yeah, he's 2 points a game. It's like, well, yes, when he's not that, it looks like he's streaky, but it's like, yeah, 8.75. He's still a point a game at that point.
He's still better
than
better than best Owen Tippett when he's in a cold streak.
It's just very funny to look at, like, the streakiness thing. Everyone is streaky, and it really doesn't matter. At the end of that's why they play 82. Yeah. Because that's the sample size you need to figure out who is who. And at the end of the season, your numbers are your numbers. It's remarkable how consistent guys' numbers are year to year, I think. Like, wow, like 3 straight years of exactly 42 assists. That's interesting.
True talent.
No, that's what he is.
You remember that guy, Chris Davis, who played for the Oakland Athletics, where I think it was like 4 straight years he finished with a 247 batting average?
I think so,
which was like one of the most like wild, how the hell did he do that kinds of things ever.
That is such a...
We're talking decimal points
That is such a random statistic. Batting average can be so random, and it's like, yeah, man, 24.7% exactly
every
3 or 4 years in a row. Like, that's what you're looking at. I just looked at Kurt's thread. It's like, this is absolutely wild. We're going to talk more about Owen Tippett today anyway, but what did you think when you saw that? Like, oh yeah, it is. The streakiness is a myth, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe the importance, maybe we just put too much importance on streakiness. Like, he's consistent, but he's still a 50-point player. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, he's consistent. He is what he is.
Well, you want me to throw some real zaniness at you? I think my general view of streakiness is that streakiness itself is streaky, in that I don't think it is a repeatable skill, in that I think some guys 1 year might be very streaky, and then the next year might not be streaky at all, because streakiness is streaky. I think there are probably a few guys who are naturally very streaky, who are, when they're hot, they score all their points in bunches and then they go cold for a month. But I think for the most part, like, you got to remember that hockey is a sport played on ice with a bunch of guys skating on knives. There's a lot of randomness. And a lot of what we think of as streakiness is just the puck didn't bounce your way for 2 weeks.
And then at the end of it, when we're talking about putting up points, especially scoring goals, there's a 6'3" guy wearing 100 pounds worth of pads.
It's wearing body armor.
who's the best athlete on the ice, like, trying to stop you and steal your joy. Like, it is a random game.
Yeah, there's a lot of randomness.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that there aren't guys who are naturally streaky. There aren't guys who are naturally consistent. There are. I'm sure that there are some guys who have that true talent level one way or the other. Just like there are some guys who, if there's a large enough sample size, we would learn that they are naturally clutch. There are some guys who naturally do step their game up in the in the biggest moments. And there are some guys that over a large enough sample size, we learn that they do naturally shrink from the big moments. That is part of who they are as people. But a lot of the people that get tagged with the clutch tag or get tagged with the choker tag, it's just because they've been in 3 playoff runs their entire life. And maybe out of those 21 games, like 7 of them, they were sick and 10 of them, they were playing through a broken foot and they just happened to have bad luck during that run. And then they get tagged with the choker label or whatever, or they happen to be on the hottest streak of their life when the playoffs hit and boom, now we think of them as these like, oh my God, he's so clutch. Like there are some guys who probably do have that skill. And there are some guys who probably do have that negative, but it's probably a lot fewer guys on both sides than we think exist.
There's a real thick middle, I would say. Not that he was like the Conn Smythe winner or anything, but I just think, hey, Jeff Carter finally didn't break his foot, and guess what? They won the cup. Just wasn't here.
What do you know?
So we talked yesterday a little bit about how Owen Tippett's raw scoring totals didn't improve really. He put up basically the exact same stats: 27 to 28 goals, I think 49 to 53 points, like the exact same season statistically, pretty much. But he did make improvements in other areas.
He did. He was a better 5-on-5 player, I would say, at least from a scoring standpoint. He shot the puck a lot more. That was the big one. He turned from a good volume shooter, a guy who shoots the puck a solid amount for a top 6 forward, to one of the most frequent shooters in the NHL.
I think he was 11th in total shots on goal.
And then if you account for ice time, he was like in the top 3 in basically every single category.
So, and you have it in your article. So yes, Tippett's offensive production didn't improve dramatically year over year, but Tippett still made important, measurable strides in other key areas. Do you, Charlie O'Connor, believe these improvements to his overall game will ultimately result in greater production? Like, do you see that coming?
Yes. I don't know if it's going to be the jump that people are hoping for, but I do think that if you're shooting the puck the amount that Owen Tippett shoots the puck, and if that proves to be a sustainable skill, one that he holds for this season and for the coming years to come, that is going to lead to more goals because number one, you're just putting yourself in more opportunities to score goals. You're shooting more. You're getting to dangerous areas. You're getting to shooting areas, even if they're not super dangerous areas. And that's a skill. It's a skill to be able to create your own shot, to put yourself in position to shoot. That is a skill, and I do think it's going to pay dividends. Number two, and it always comes back to this, man, if they could just make the power play decent. Then, because like you look at the 5-on-5 production that he had last year versus the year before, measurably better this year. The problem was that the power play, well, it was bad the year before, it was even worse this past year. Even worse. If they could just get the power play to operating at a 20% clip, which again, we've talked about, not even that great. They would put them like 22nd in the league. If they could just get to 20%, I think Owen Tippett's numbers would maybe not have looked like a superstar's numbers, but they would have looked more like he took a not insignificant leap in terms of his quality of play, which I think he did. I think he got better last year. He didn't take a star turn, but he got better.
All right. I was trying to come up with a comparison in numbers to Jeff Carter here, and the shots per game very much went along with the scoring jump. So that's not what we're looking at with Tippett, because he had the big shot jump, but the scoring jump didn't go. But I do think it ultimately, like if he can maintain this level of 5-on-5 production, because it's very good.
It's good, yeah.
And just give us something on the power play.
Just anything.
Like
just a little bit.
5 more power play goals. I think he had 5 last year. If he has 10, it's like, oh, man, yeah, he's a 30-goal scorer. Look at that.
Yeah.
He's a 35-goal scorer.
Every year he's scoring 30, 35 goals because the Flyers, again, and we're not even asking for the power play to be good. We're just asking for it to be not terrible.
Not asking for the world functional. Just, like, don't be the fucking worst. Like, if they finish... What is... this is totally different, but we've talked about this... a number of times. And yeah, if you haven't read the Owen Tippett article yet, it's available on allphly.com for diehards only, as are all Charlie's season reviews. The Jamie Drysdale article coming up. It dropped today. We'll probably talk about it like Thursday. So if you want to be ready for that, go to allphly.com, sign up to be a diehard.
Released a Jamie Drysdale article today. We'll talk about that later in the week, but that's also for diehards only.
Yeah. If you were making the decisions, what % jump would keep Rocky Thompson employed, at least in this role? Like, where do they realistically need to be
Are you asking what my preference or for the Flyers?
Because the Flyers are probably going to keep him.
I think if the Flyers make any, like if they jump to like 18%, I think they keep him.
Okay.
For me, it would be they have to clear 20. With Mitchkov, you got to clear 20. That's the only way. And I'm not even saying I would necessarily fire him entirely.
No, just someone else in that role.
I would take the power play duties away from him. If the Flyers improve by 5 percentage points and are still at 17% and are still like 28th, yeah, you're not coaching the power play anymore, dude. You got Matvei Mitchkov. Come on, you can do better. We actually not. Maybe you can't do better. We can do better.
I guess for me, it would come down to like, what does Mitchkov look like overall? Mm-hmm. But like the power play is where he like, all right, man, you're not ready for maybe he is like maybe he's a star right away. But it's all right, 5-on-5. You're still young. You're learning the game.
Getting used to the fact the players are bigger and faster and they close gaps quicker. You have less space. Guess where you have more space? Yeah. When you have one extra guy.
The power play, like he should probably eat a little bit on the power play.
You would hope.
Now, the power play has stunk for the last several years. So who the hell knows? But it should take a jump.
Well, again, but this is the bet they're taking. Because if they really thought that Rocky Thompson was as bad of a power play coach as I believe the vast majority of the fan base believes he is, they would have fired him. They clearly don't think he's that bad of a power play coach, which tells me they're pinning it on the talent and the mix of players they have. If Matvei Mitchkov, who they have sold to everyone as like the high-end talent we need, if he comes in and it still doesn't get better, I think that theory, you have to throw that theory out the window. Because suddenly it's like, okay, well, if Mitchkov isn't talented enough, you're still going to say you don't have enough talent? How much talent do you need to be at least passable?
To be just not horrible.
Yeah.
All right, that's a fair point. Yeah, let's do more reads, and then we'll get to
the movie.
And then we'll get to the movie. First of all, speaking of some of my favorite sponsors here at PHLY, we got to do some Shady Rays talk. That's right. You got to get ready for every season with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. I wear my Shady Rays every day, even inside, like I do right here when I get to do the reads on this show. And I love Shady Rays for a number of reasons. Like I said, the crystal clear optics. I can read plain, fine, just right off my screen here, even though they're polarized shades. But another thing I loved is the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of Shady Rays is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people at shadyrays.com, code PHLY for 35% off polarized shades. And all right, you have the glasses for your outdoor adventure. Now, you got to make it an adventure. How do you do it? You do it with Rugged Road products. How do you do it? Well, Rugged Road is a dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. You see the Rugged Road cooler right there on our screen if you're watching along on YouTube. These coolers are cool as hell, man. And not only are they cool looking, they're very, very useful. Floatability, for one of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You'll never lose a drink, and the cooler won't sink. It's pretty dope. And the lightweight design, unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. And you want to talk about durability? They're crafted to handle the toughest environments. The coolers are built to last, ensuring they can keep up with any adventure. And the coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days, and oftentimes much longer than that. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code PHLY for 10% off. That's ruggedroadoutdoors.com, code PHLY. Do it today. All right, it's miracle time.
Heyo.
And this is funny to me because we sit down in here. We're about to go live. Bryn's setting up the cameras and everything. And just turn to Charlie and I go, yeah, does Miracle kind of suck? And listen, I know everyone out there. Listen, I'm not saying this.
I do not think Miracle as a movie sucks.
No, Charlie did not believe that. The story of the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team is undoubtedly awesome. Herb Brooks, his whole thing, got cut from the 60 team, getting this group of college kids, many of whom were like rivals from Minnesota and Boston. Like, awesome. Yeah. The whole thing is cool. If you've ever seen the documentary, Do You Believe in Miracles? It's fucking great. By the end, I was like, all right, this is cool. Throughout most of the movie, I was like, this is not a good movie.
Really?
I was,
wow.
It's just boring.
Okay,
like,
interesting.
The story is not boring. The way they told it, and it gets down to a very fundamental flaw that I have with that I see in this movie, and all movies deemed hockey movies that are made by Disney.
I see where you're going with this.
You cannot make a hockey movie without the word fuck. It is as much a part of the sport as the stick and the skates. Like when
it is very difficult to show what it is like to be in a hockey locker room without any profanity
when
whatsoever.
Herb Brooks says, look like a couple of monkeys trying to hump a football. That is a famous Herb Brooks quote in which he says, fuck a football. This guy, this hardened ass dude from like the 30s, like he said hump. Come on.
Fair point. Well, one thing that I always
takes me out.
Because as a diehard hockey fan, when I was a kid, I read a ton about the 1980 Olympic team, as we all probably did if we grew up as diehard hockey fans. And I read all the breakdowns, all the stories, all the articles, whatever. And one of the things when I watched Miracle, I was curious. And they basically just like, and I get it from a narrative standpoint, they take out what is essentially the gold medal game. It was a round robin in the medal round, but when they beat the USSR, that wasn't the game. They had to beat Finland, because if they would have lost to Finland, the Russians still would have won the gold, because the Russians would have had a better record in the medal round and the U.S. would have gotten silver. So they had to beat Finland. And one of the funny anecdotes about that game is they end two periods, they're down, and Brooks comes in, because it's like one of those like flip sides of like he has this like famous pep talk before the game against the Russians, and it's this uplifting thing. And he apparently goes into the locker room in between the second and third period and says, "You lose this game, you'll take it to your fucking graves." And then he turns around, and as he's walking out, he's just like, "Your fucking graves." And then he leaves. And then they score 3 goals in the third period and win.
Honestly, his best speech. That is like exactly, because that's how grown-ups talk in a locker room.
But I was curious if, like, how are you going to tell the tale of the gold medal game without that line? It's so iconic. And their solution was, well, we're just going to end the movie after they beat the Russians.
Of course they beat the Finns.
Of course they beat the Finns.
Like, but there are some really great parts of the movie. I very much enjoyed just the very beginning, like the opening credits, that montage of like just how screwed up everything was, like all culminating basically with like the Iranian hostage crisis and that whole thing, but like everything that sucks so bad and how much America needed this so bad. And it did make me think. I know we always say like, because obviously we're all the stars of our own narratives.
Sure,
and
of course.
The most important thing is what's going on now.
Yeah, we're all the protagonists of our own story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we live in the craziest timeline. Do we? Or do we just have social media where everything happens immediately now?
I've made this point so many times.
You just watched that, and you like studied history and shit.
Things have always been bonkers.
Things have always been insane because fucking insane people are everywhere, and most of them are in charge.
Yeah, humanity is bonkers. Yeah, we always have been. We always will be. I've made that point on multiple occasions.
The montage in the beginning, I'm just like,
oh yeah, 70s were wild. Huh?
Yeah, man. If they had social media, then they'd be like, this is the end of the world, the way we think it is now.
Yeah, like in the 60s, like 4 or 5 major political figures all got killed.
Yeah, like
it was wild.
A presidential candidate got shot at. It was like a big story for like a day and a half.
So.
But this happened like 5 times
in one decade.
This used to happen regularly.
In one decade.
This happened like one, and like obviously we've taken steps to make sure it doesn't happen.
Sure.
But that shit happened all the time.
Yeah.
They were constantly shooting at elected officials.
Yeah, it was a thing. But no, you're absolutely right. And that was interesting because I had forgotten about that opening montage.
Yeah.
And when it starts, I was kind of like rolling my eyes a little bit. It kind of reminded me a little bit of have you seen the cinematic adaptation of Watchmen?
Yeah,
because like they kind of started. They have like the Dylan song in the background. They're going through all the historical events, but injecting the superheroes and the costume heroes into these events and whatnot. That was cool because it's unique. This was like I kind of was rolling my eyes, and then you get it at the end because from an artistic standpoint, they're very clearly trying to set it up. It all builds to Jimmy Carter's crisis of confidence speech. And that was near the end of Carter's term as president. And it's when like inflation's real high, gas prices are through the roof. And he gives a speech basically saying that like our problem is we don't have confidence in the country anymore. And it didn't work. Like he loses the election to Reagan. Like that didn't save his presidency. But it's very clear the movie is presenting it as like the miracle gave us back our confidence. And that is the artistic point of the movie.
It's more than a hockey game, and then Herb Brooks and like the closing monologue is like she was right. It was more than a game. It was more than a game. Like it all builds. It's building from there to that.
That is the artistic point of the movie. So it makes sense. Here's the way I'll describe Miracle, because I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this while I was watching it, and when you said like, does this movie suck? I was thinking about it a little more. I think of Miracle, the movie, less like a movie and more like an album. And let me explain why. Because Miracle to me, as if you're judging Miracle on like every minute of the movie, is it entertaining? Is there not a minute wasted? Is it great from start to finish? I would say no, it's not. There are a lot of parts that drag. There are a lot of parts that aren't the best. But when it hits, the moments are incredible. Like again, incredible. The speech by Kurt Russell, incredible. The game, basically the entirety of the game. And even like smaller ones, like when one scene I really love, and I've always really, really liked it, but I was watching it this morning and I remembered how much I enjoyed it. When Herb Brooks brings the ringer from Minnesota in, and they're all panicking because they're like, oh God, he's going to take one of our spots. And the 4 guys pull Herb off the bus. And they're like, you can't bring him on this team. We've worked so hard for this over 6 months. And he's like, well, but he's a great player. Why shouldn't he? And the guy's like, we're a family. And it's extremely cheesy, but it's still really good. It hits.
Part of the reason, and like they did use some like actual hockey players in this movie. Like, so it's, they wanted the hockey to look good. Some of the acting in this film is
I'll get back to that in a second. But what I mean by when I say I look at it like an album is there are very few albums where like I absolutely love every single song.
Yeah, that's why it's like no skips is like
it's a big thing. But like if I have an album even in my top 10, it might be like there's 5 songs off of a 12-song album that I think are incredible. And that's the way I view Miracle, where it's like, yeah, like 6 or 7 of the songs are just okay, or, I don't hate it. There's no part of this movie I hate.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of parts of this movie where I'm like, I'll just like check my Twitter or whatever. But then like when it's one of those 4 or 5 scenes, I am intently laser focused on the screen because it's just that good. That's why I would call this more. It's a great album. I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's a great album. It's a great album movie.
And I'm just thinking, like, there are scenes I love. Like, I can't say the movie sucks. Absolutely. Like, there's some really good stuff. I love the scene where they all crowd onto the podium. They get the whole team onto the gold medal podium. Like, that's sick.
Yeah.
But again, these are moments that actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, so that makes
I think it's a movie of great moments.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a great start to finish movie, but the great moments are so great that they elevate the movie to being at least like legitimately good in my mind. That's my view of it.
I guess it's just like, this movie is this historic event is the basis. It's the blueprint for every sports movie ever. And so, like, there is cheesy shit that happens, but these things actually happened. And I guess it's like so watered down, one, because we know it start to finish. Like, who doesn't know?
There's no drama. You know what's going to happen.
Who doesn't know this story?
Yeah.
Especially hockey fans. And like, yeah, it hits every beat of a great sports movie because the thing that actually happened is a fucking great sports movie.
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
There's no way to, like, what are we going to dramatize the most dramatic thing that's ever happened in sports? Like, that's going to be real difficult to do.
I think the one part of this movie, and this plays into why I think there are long stretches that are kind of dull. And this is a flaw of the movie, truthfully. I think they could have done a better job at this. It is very clear that the only character that matters in this movie is Herb Brooks.
Yes.
He is the only person who actually matters. Everyone else is a side piece to Herb Brooks. You don't really connect with any of the players. And that feels like a missed opportunity because they all have great stories. Like, there are moments where you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. Like, oh, it's sad that he didn't make the team. But, like, you don't really feel. And maybe that's...
Ava was bummed when Cox got cut.
Yeah, but like, it's, you don't really get to know any of them, really.
Yeah.
It's, maybe it would have made the movie 3 hours and it would have made it unwieldy. Fair. I get it. But a lot of these guys had really interesting stories, and I found myself mixing up some of them. I've seen this movie probably like 5 or 6 times. I still find myself mixing up some of the players. Like, mixing up, oh, who is that? Who's he? And part of it is that they're all like pasty-faced white guys, so like you're gonna mix some of them up.
Just a bunch of Boston, Minnesota.
Yeah, like they look fairly similar. But seriously, like, you can do that in a way where you don't even have to have everybody. Just maybe have like 2 or 3 that you really connect with. Like, they try with Jim Craig, but he's not that great of an actor.
Hey, we're talking about Tag from Friends here. God damn it!
They try a little bit with Ruzioni. Like, they try. It's
Rizzo, OC, and Jim Craig are the guys that they.
I don't think they do a good enough job.
No.
Which means that whenever there's parts where
without Herb Brooks,
it's focused on the team, it's kind of dull. But like Russell is incredible as Herb Brooks. Incredible.
Amazing. But like, that gets to like the one scene where they really try to like show the motivations of the players, and it's before everyone comes together and before the great Eruzione moment, obviously. Right. It's when they're at the bar and the Boston guys and Minnesota guys are segregated, and they're sitting there, this doesn't get to you. Like, the exchange of dialogue between all those guys at the bar was straight out of, and I'll say this as a huge Kevin Smith fan, like, I'm going to say these lines as I'm reading the paper because I'm actually reading my lines. And like, that's how it came off to me. Like, it was so bad.
Well, I'm going to compare it, like, and obviously this is an easy comparison because every hockey movie gets compared to Slapshot. But I'm going to compare it to Slapshot where, okay, like, yes, obviously Paul Newman is the guy. Like, he is the star of the movie. He's a movie star going in, and he does an incredible job. He's a great actor who acts his heart out in that movie. But, like, you still know like 5 or 6 of the players very well. And I think it's a shorter movie than this. And you still, by the end of the movie, like, there are 3 or 4 players on that team that, like, you know by name and you think are freaking great.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get that same attachment to the players here, even though I know that they're all very interesting people.
I will try to fill out our bracket thing now, like our graphic now. It's harder. Doing something like this is just harder without a comedy. Like, oh, best line.
True.
Like, well, the best line is always going to be your favorite joke in the movie and stuff like that. And it's not as if there are really villains in this movie for like worst character, but we're going to do our best here. We'll start with favorite character. Is there even... Like, there's only one character in the movie.
Well, I mean, it has
to be him. Like, the assistant coach is great because he's an actually great actor.
But here's the thing with the assistant coach, and I never made this connection until I watched it this morning. And like Craig Patrick, it's a legitimately good actor.
Yeah.
He does a really good job. But I don't know if he so much is playing Craig Patrick so much as he is playing the audience.
Yes.
He is the audience stand-in. Because like whenever Herb is going too far, he's the guy speaking the audience's word of like, you're pushing these kids too hard, you asshole. And then the moments when Herb like pulls off the right motivation, they always switch to Patrick, who's got that like, yo, this is awesome look on his face, which is the look that every single person watching the movie also has on their face. Like he is just the audience. The assistant coach is the audience.
That is an outstanding way to put that. But for favorite character, we're gonna do anything other than Herb Brooks. Like, would it be disingenuous to even?
It's Herb
There's
Brooks.
only one character, but no, that is like I do really like the assistant coach of the movie, and you get to just like, yeah, he is, and I do think it's the perfect coach dynamic of like, and he even fucking says it. I'll be your coach, not here to be your friend. Talk to him.
Yeah,
like the ultimate. Yeah, man, like the assistant coach is the best friend, puts his arm around you, and the coach is the drill sergeant. Like that is the dynamic of most hockey teams ever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I do think it's going to be Herb Brooks for both of us. I would guess.
It's gotta be.
What's the
that's both the biggest strength and the biggest weakness of the movie.
Yes.
Is that there is no one else it could possibly be other than Herb Brooks.
No, and absolutely. All right, favorite scene. This is a tough one because there, like you said, there are some great ones here, but a lot of stuff that you just like, was that even really necessary? I guess to tell a 2-hour movie, you got to have other scenes in the movie. What is your favorite scene?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, like there are a lot of good scenes in this movie. I can't say that there is a scene that I enjoy watching more than the bag skate. Bag skate again. Like
Okay.
it's iconic. And like it's done so well, and it's so emotionally manipulative when Ruzioni, United States of America. But like, do I tear up every time? Fuck yeah, I do. This is a great scene,
and it really happened. Like it's cheesy as shit, but it actually happened. Like it's again the basis. I do really like the. I love the scene where they describe the 1960 team. And how Herb got cut from that team.
That was a very well done
actually
scene. It's
a great because then it sets up like what they're doing with the ringer player.
Yeah,
like so I actually like it because it's one of the few times Herb's not on screen.
Yeah, and you're actually engaged.
They're talking about him, and like they set it up earlier. He just takes out the picture of the team and his name's on it. Like he's in the picture, but he wasn't on the fucking team.
Yeah,
like and then they actually explain what happened.
Yeah,
like,
it's a good piece of exposition.
It's actually a pretty useful scene in that movie. So that's me.
I'm surprised that neither of us picked the speech because the speech that's the one that probably has like 10 million views on YouTube.
I'll tell you what ruined it for me.
What?
That little kid.
The kid ruined it for you?
That little kid who does that speech.
I love that. I think it was cool.
It annoys me. I hate when little kids do stuff. Anyway, best line in the movie. Maybe that's like, can a whole speech be a line? Honestly, I was thinking, I was like, they don't do that gold medal because I was thinking that I was like, they're not going to do that, right? Because I haven't seen this in years. If it was the gold medal game and he does the to your fucking graves, like absolutely,
that would be number
that
one.
walks away with it. But I can't like. Does any line really stand? It's got to just be the speech, right? Like what else?
I think the speech. So here's one I will say because I think it was the absolute right move to do it this way. Is the fact that they actually have the original Al Michaels call rather than because Al Michaels, he's in the movie, he redoes his call. You can tell that it's re-recorded because it's much cleaner during the entirety of the game. But when it gets to the final 10 seconds, they replace it with the actual call, and you just get chills. And like if they would have tried to have him repeat it, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been the same. And I love the fact that they realized that like no. We have to have the original call. It's never, you can't top the sincerity and the spontaneity of the moment. So let's just have the original Al Michaels call. And when you hear that call, you get chills.
And the name of the fucking movie is Miracle.
Yeah.
Like, of course. Now, I think
it's building up to it.
Yeah. All right. And finally, least favorite character.
Okay, I have two, but I want to hear yours first.
All right. This is I feel bad saying this because there's only like one woman in the movie.
Oh, his wife.
And then Herb's what, like, are we going to do this every 4 years? Yes! It's the fucking Olympics! Yeah! If I don't win this year, if Russia doesn't go, I'm going back in 4 years. You're going to have to live with it. You married a hockey coach. And, like,
that is fair.
The best hockey coach.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to do this every 4 years? Fucking right we are. She comes around. It's all fine. But that pissed me off. Like, you're going to deny me my dreams? Like, you're just chasing. Yes! I got cut from the fucking gold medal team, and now I'm chasing something I didn't get. Obviously, this is like something that's been weighing on me for 20 years. You live with me and know this. I was just like,
yeah, you chose to marry her, Brooks. What did you expect?
If Ava and I had this argument, I'd be like, I'm leaving.
No, well, it's like, and it's also, and I mean this in no way disrespectful. Like, God bless you, but like, John Tortorella's wife. It's like you must be a saint. But like you knew what you were getting into. You know who he is.
And there's some. I want to make some torch jokes before we wrap up. But who's your worst character? Your two worst characters? Whatever.
What I strongly considered picking as my worst character is my best character is Herb Brooks. Worst character is also Herb Brooks because like he is insufferable. Like he's an enormous asshole in most of this movie.
I would absolutely be the guy just fucking rolling. Like I would be one of the dudes sent home right away. Like, yeah, I filled out your thing and this is no, I'm not dealing with this.
Okay, but in all honesty, no. The worst character in this movie, and I'm not going to say he's the worst character because he's a bad guy. He's the worst character because he was the worst at his job. It's Viktor Tikhonov, the Russian head coach. He pulls Tretiak, and again, like this actually happened. He pulls like maybe the best goalie ever. Like there is a case that Tretiak is the best goaltender in hockey history. Like he's probably top 5. And the fact that we never got to see him play in the NHL is a tragedy because he was that freaking good. He pulls him at the end of the first period, and not only is that like a bad move because this is like the best goalie ever. He gave up 2 goals. Like I think I would trust him. It tells your team that you're panicking. Like suddenly it's like, no, we're not playing a team that we're going to just go out in the second period and put in 6 goals and blow them out of the water. It's, oh God, we might lose this game. You put that in your players' heads. Suddenly it becomes a game because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You convince your players that this game warranted that kind of panic move. Unbelievably stupid. And then my second favorite line in the movie, after the Do You Believe in Miracles, obviously, the classic, is at the very end of the game when Tikhonov is like in a cold sweat in the bench. They're down by a goal. He's panicking. And Herb Brooks says to Craig Patrick, he's like laughing. He's just like, he doesn't know what to do. And like, it's so good because it's so obvious that like the way they portray him is a guy who got so used to winning. Everything went his way for a decade. And suddenly it's like, oh my God, we might lose this game. Like what do I do with my hands? And like, they do such a good job of presenting this great coach. Cause like, and Tikhonov apparently has said in retrospect, like benching Tretiak was the biggest mistake of my career. Like if I could go back and change one move I made in my coaching career, it's benching the best goalie in the world after one period in what essentially was the gold medal game. It's very clear that he, more than maybe anybody else in that Russian team, panicked. And he's a big reason why they lost. And that's why he's the worst character.
Coaching break. So when we do our draft, he's not going to be your coaching selection.
Oh, definitely not. Are you kidding me?
There's so many quotes, like Herb Brooksisms throughout this movie, and obviously he accomplished something that hasn't been done since, a gold medal for Team USA.
Yeah. And he did coach the 2002 team that won silver.
All the success in the NCAA, but ultimately his legacy to me, the quote, "We're not looking for the best players, we're looking for the right ones," has empowered coaches for generations to make objectively bad decisions and chalk it up to that. Well, yeah, he might be great, but not right for me. Like, no, you're not right now. Because this one fluke fucking thing happened. 40 goddamn years ago, we have to suffer through coaches thinking they're smarter than everyone else because we're not looking for the best players, we're looking for the right ones.
It is.
That is the most Tortorella shit. There's many great Torts things
There
in
were
here.
so many moments in this movie where I'm just like,
Torts.
like Torts very clearly is using Herb Brooks as a go-to man.
Yes.
He is. Like, there is just so many times where it's like, oh, Torts would totally do this.
I never thanked the PHLY diehards, so thank you all for joining us today. We couldn't do what we do here at PHLY without you. That's my bad on that one. Lost track of time.
But yeah, the Torts connection is tough to miss watching this movie and being like, oh yeah, Torts would do that. Yeah, Torts. It's exactly what Torts would say. It's exactly what Torts would do. And it's the same thing where like, yeah, he's a total hard ass and they all hate him and they give him the whip, as a gift and whatever. But then like when he cuts the guy at the end, like you can tell he does care. And I do think that at the core of it all, in his own weird way, Torts does really care about his players.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just like he's a crazy person, which is why I made the joke of like God bless you, Mrs. Tortorella.
Yes,
like that you're married to this crazy person and you love him because he's a crazy person, presumably. It's like I love that. But like Torts is very Herb Brooksy. At least the way Herb Brooks is presented in this movie. And my understanding is everything I've read is that they did a very good job of replicating Herb Brooks in all of his Herbisms.
Yeah, he was definitely not a quote unquote players coach. It was not country club atmosphere for a Herb Brooks coach team. Now, ultimately, listen, I think considering I came away, like when the movie ended, I was like, all right, I got to make sure we have other stuff planned because I don't know how long we can talk about this. I think we had a really good conversation.
I think we did a really good conversation.
I think this went better than expected.
Oh, the one thing I did want to mention that I'd forgotten about, I had totally forgotten that Pelle Lindbergh's in this movie.
That was
totally forgot that he was a Swedish goalie.
Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I had the subtitles on and Lindbergh comes like, oh my God, that's Pelle.
Yeah, that was Al Michaels drops his name a couple of times. It's like, oh, yeah, right.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
The timing works. He would have been the Swedish goalie. Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah, so that was a nice little nugget in there. Also, in the very beginning, I think Herb Brooks, maybe he's in the waiting room for the interview and they're like scanning and it's a Sports Illustrated. And it's like, oh, right, it's 1980. It's like Rose has the Phillies on the rise. It's like, it's like 79. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, they win the World Series the next year.
Yeah,
all right.
They sure do.
And that's it. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Oh, the Super Chats.
Super Chats.
Today is not my best show. I'm just going to throw that out. Charlie did tremendous. Me, there's always tomorrow. Let's go to JH for the first Super Chat. Does Pico stop sponsoring the power play? It's so bad.
I really hope Pico never stops sponsoring the power play.
I hope they don't.
At the very least, don't stop sponsoring the power play until after Lou Nolan retires.
My thing is...
I need as many years of Lou Nolan saying the Pico power play as possible.
As much as... And I do wonder if Pico's ever like, this is making us look bad. Like, this is horrible. But I don't want AI like taking anyone's job ever. But since it's like one single job for one or two teams, if AI were to...
AI as in Allen Iverson?
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, AI. I was like, what are you talking about?
If artificial intelligence...
That's where my head's at. As soon as I hear AI, I think Allen Iverson.
If artificial intelligence were to be used to replicate Lou Nolan and Dan Baker for the rest of time, I don't think I would have a problem with that. It's just players' names and numbers and positions. It would not be the most difficult thing in the world. And sure, the next generation wants their guy. I don't care about you. I want to feel warm and fuzzy forever. Like the way they use Harry Callis's "Out of Here" for home runs at Citizens Bank. Like, why not?
I see your point. I feel like there would be a lifelessness if it wasn't actually coming from Lou Nolan.
I guess
that's my view. Is that part of the
this is very morbid.
Part of the fun of it, like, and why it is so iconic and why it still hits every time you hear Lou Nolan say the Pico power play,
because it's him.
It's because it's him.
Yeah.
I feel like if it wasn't him, it would just be cheap nostalgia. But I see where you're coming from.
It's fair. And we talked to Lou. Like, he's so cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But yeah, I just don't want to ever. I always want it to.
You
be
always want
that.
to hear that voice.
But that's how we feel about everything, and then we get used to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, people didn't like Harry Callis when he started. It was like, oh, the other guy. Saying, well, he's gone. And then Harry became the legend.
And Harry became the legend.
All right. And our second super chat from Gary B. I'm glad we didn't take him, but it would have been very funny if Rocky Thompson coached Ustankov on the power play.
Ustinkov was the guy in the draft.
Yeah.
But
right. I couldn't think of
remember when we were doing the bad names?
the funny names. Yeah.
That would have been funny.
It would have been.
But I don't even know if Ustinkov even got drafted. He might have went undrafted.
Well,
but if he ultimately does make it in the NHL, I would think he's not going to be here for like 4 or 5 years. I really hope Rocky Thompson either isn't the power play coach or gets a lot better.
Yeah, he's
to be here in 4 or 5 years.
That would be the mascot of this power play. All right, and that now is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on YouTube and hit that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 at our normal time. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. Right, my name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, you stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.